Hello, it's Elizabeth Emery, host of Hear Her Sports. Before we get started, I'd like to say how much I love pockets. Women need pockets, including women runners. Whether we're out for a short or a long run, or out in our regular life, we need pockets. That's exactly why Oiselle designed the Pocket Jogger Tights. They have 7 pockets total, including a rear zip pocket, 2 large side pockets, and mesh pockets at the waist. You can easily store everything you'll need on any run. I love the pocket joggers in all the lengths: full-length tights, 3/4, knickers, and the shorts. They're all just perfect for carrying my house key and for stashing a headband or hat when I get too hot, because I always get too hot on runs. Plus, they are super comfortable and made of really nice, soft, compressive, and moisture-wicking fabric. Oiselle's pocket joggers are long-lasting and fit great like all the Oiselle products, so you can head out confidently on your runs or whenever you go out. Find the Pocket Jogger Tights at oiselle.com. That's OISELLE.com, or click the banner link at the top of the Hear Her Sports website at hearhersports.com. Hello there. Welcome to another cross-country ski race report. Of course, we are still Hear Her Sports, and I am still your host and producer, Elizabeth Emery, but these race reports are special. Thanks to the wonderful folks at US Ski and Snowboard, Hear Her Sports is following the cross-country ski World Cup racing season and reporting back to you through these conversations with the US female ski racers, and in this case, with one of the female coaches. Today, I am lucky enough to be talking to Coach Kristen Bourne about the racing in Goms, Switzerland. Kristen's official title is U.S. Cross Country D-Team World Cup Coach. However, she is involved in all things once the racing gets going in Europe. I've seen her in the coverage, handing poles to athletes, cheering, and testing skis. And I'm sure she's doing much more than that. She coaches Julia Kern and Gus Schumacher, 2 of the high-level athletes on the U.S. team. To set things up a bit, the World Cup in Goms was January 26th to 28th, so a couple weeks back. Kristen was not physically there with the team. She had already gone to Canmore, Canada, I presume to set things up for when the team arrived, which they did shortly after Goms. Racing in Canmore had already started when I spoke to Kristen, so she does tell us a little bit about that and about the anticipation and some nerves for the long-awaited World Cup in Minneapolis. Kristen is a vocal supporter and advocate for women coaches. I ask her about the current impact of the Trail to Gold Fellowship, which she first told me about exactly a year ago when she was on Hear Her Sports in episode 142. Listen to that one for more details about the Fellowship for Women Coaches and about the coveted racecourse bibs. In today's show, we get to learn some specifics about Goms, a new World Cup venue. There was some very firm snow on a very difficult course, sunny weather, which changes everything, and technical turns. We also talk about general vibes for Canmore and Minneapolis, because for the U.S. racers, it's really different to experience the level of energy and fandom they'll find on home soil. I always love talking to Kristen. She is such a smart and thinking coach, in tune with her athletes and the sport, and also she provides a different view for us, a broader perspective than what the racers see and have shared with us. Well, onward, let's say hello to Kristen. Well, hi, Kristen. It is so great to have you on the podcast. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I love your podcast, and I've listened to several episodes, especially since you've been covering all of the races from this season and having athletes from the team recap their experiences. I frequently get to talk to the athletes after their races and hear their thoughts, but it's also fun to hear their perspective on it and how it might evolve a little bit after, some time to think about it and maybe rewatch the races and stuff. So it's been cool to listen to those recaps.
Well, it's been super fun for me. I hope that listeners are enjoying it as well. I have been getting good feedback, so thank you. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yep. Well, we're here to talk about racing in Goms, Switzerland. It's been a couple of weeks since that race. What sticks in your mind looking back at it?
So Goms it was a new venue. They have hosted World Juniors and U23 several years ago, but we have not gone there on the World Cup, and so it was a little bit of like quite a few unknowns for everybody, but it got rave reviews. It was super sunny. It was beautiful. The crowd certainly didn't disappoint. And then we had some great results as well. So I think the whole team is definitely looking forward to going back there. Um, yeah, it's always a little bit challenging with new venues sometimes. Everyone, I think, is a little skeptical. And it was an awesome experience for everybody. So I was not physically there, but I did watch all of the races live just because I was still adjusted to European time, and I was getting all of the notes and the heads up from all of our staff and a bunch of the athletes. So I nearly felt like I was there.
Well, I'm glad to hear that it did get good reviews because, as a spectator, it looked like there were a lot of falls. It was technical corners. The track was pretty, narrow. And I was curious what the athletes would have thought about all that.
Yeah, it's funny with World Cup venues and new ones. Everyone is paying attention to everything, the little details. Did they kind of like meet the standards of all these different things? And it's pretty amazing how good weather really skews people's opinion of a World Cup venue. I mean, I think maybe it would have been a little bit different if it had been raining or if it was extremely cold, but it was sunny. And granted, a lot of the venues we've been to haven't been sunny this year, especially in the first period when you're in Scandinavia in November
Yeah.
and December. And so it was like this huge relief for people to be able to sit out on the deck and get a bunch of sun. And then the other thing that really skews perspective too, it's the fans. If there are no fans there, people are kind of like, it's fine. But when there's really good fans, people get so hyped to go back. So I think from the athlete's perspective, it was pretty good. I I don't I'm not sure that the courses had so much of a review other than the fact that like yes, they were quite challenging, but also the snow was super super firm. I mean, you like watch some of the races and you don't really see much snow like flying off of the skis when they're pushing really hard, especially in a skate race. And that thing was like concrete. So I think people were definitely nervous. There were some crashes on the training day that made people nervous about some of the downhills. But that's also pretty similar to a lot of venues. These courses are really hard, and World Cup courses are not really for beginners. There are huge uphills and very very huge fast ripping downhills with turns at the bottom. So people fall and that happens. So it wasn't anything crazy different than what a lot of them are used to.
It's funny that you mentioned the weather because I would say that that is one of my takeaways from doing these race reports is that the athletes actually care about the weather. I think I would have thought, they're winter athletes. They're used to cold. They're used to gray and dark and all of that. But every single athlete has talked about being really happy when it's not 20 degrees below and, when there is sun and stuff.
Oh yeah, it makes a huge difference. And like you also the athletes, they spend so much time like in the hotel room or at the
Yeah.
race venue. And so a huge chunk of their time is either indoors or going for like a run, or it's outside at the venue, um, you know, training and doing everything that they need to do for upcoming races. And so it's a massive chunk of their experience is what's happening where the sun is, just for sake of like happiness and experience. But when you spend like, so many months in the dark, you're really excited when you get just like a little glimpse of sun. I mean, it's pretty evident, especially in the first period, when we're in Scandinavia, when we get a sunny day, because the sun doesn't rise until really late. If you get any ounce of sun at any point, everybody will be outside.
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
if they are in the hotel room, they will go outside. just because you're desperately looking for it and it's been like so many weeks of not seeing it. So, yeah, the weather on so many levels is very important in the athlete experience. We'll just put it that way.
Yeah, well, I can relate to that. You mentioned the falls, and we had talked to Erin Bianco the week before, and she was talking about the scary technical turns and the descents, and she did end up falling in the relay. How was she feeling after that? And, like, what was that like for her? I mean, I felt very
Yeah.
bad for her.
Oh, yeah. So did we. I mean, everybody was definitely like quite concerned about her and wanting to make sure that she was okay. She was in a crash, and when she stood up, um, yeah, just felt off and then ended up having a medical issue. So unfortunately, like, and very smartly didn't finish the race. The rest of her team was just like concerned about her at that point. But it was a tough day and definitely like really felt for Erin. I think out of anybody, she was definitely like the most bummed with herself because she had the rest of the team waiting for her. But I think everybody agreed that that was the right call, was to stop.
Yeah.
So she is doing well. She's here right now in Canmore, and she qualified for her very first World Cup sprint the other day in a skate sprint, and got to ski World Cup heats for the very first time. So she had a World Cup personal best, and that was really, really exciting for the team. So she is doing well, and she's chugging along, getting ready for the sprint tomorrow.
Yeah. It seems like at Goms, the racers were, starting to feel the impact of all the previous racing from the beginning of the season, and maybe also are starting to feel, I don't know, nerves or anticipation of the North American races in Canmore and Minneapolis. What are your impressions about that?
Yeah, I think my impression like 2 weeks ago would have been a little bit different than what it is now because um, we're actually in it now and experiencing some of the things we were anticipating. I do think in Gomes that a lot of the athletes were getting to that point where they were a little bit tired, but they also knew that they got to go home really, really soon. And so I do think sometimes when you know that you're going to be able to see your family and be back in your home and your comfortable place, people start to get more anxious about it. And I do think that was happening a little bit with athletes just knowing that they were going to, number one, have a break, and number two, see some loved ones for the first time in, for many, several months. And then I think everyone really enjoyed that break and that downtime. But now we're in Canmore and we're starting to get very, very close to Minneapolis. And there's a lot of families here. There's a lot of just really big ski fans here from the US. But for the most part, like, everybody here has some kind of, that's watching, has some kind of tie to one of these athletes, and they want to see them and they want to spend time with them. There's a lot of Canadian fans that are here that have mentioned that they were really excited to see the U.S. team, and they're wearing like U.S. hats and jackets, and they're pretty big cross country ski fans. So we're starting to see that, like, we for the first time have all the spectators on our side, and when our one of our athletes gets announced, there are huge roars and cheers and applause. And I think the athletes are kind of shocked when they hear that, because normally it's a little bit fainter because we just don't have that many people cheering for us when the names get announced. And then, just walking back to the wax cabin, or like having a little bit of downtime, or when they're just, taking a moment between intervals, like, they're seeing people that they know. And that's super important as well. And of course, you want to talk to them and stuff, but then there's also that balance you have to strike of focusing and trying to do what you came here to do. And so I think it's going to be interesting to have so many people on our side and cheering for us, but then also so many faces that we know. And it's just going to be like this really cool event in Minneapolis where there's a lot of fast skiers, but it's also a ginormous, like, North American reunion.
Right.
And I think it's gonna be a crazy experience. And I can tell you, like, the World Cup, the other World Cup teams, like athletes, coaches, techs, everybody is talking about Minneapolis. People are asking questions about it all the time and being like, we are so excited to experience this because we heard tickets were sold out in a really short amount of time, and there's going to be so many thousand fans there, and it's going to be like a party, and people are psyched. So I think it's, to get back to your question, it is a huge mixture of, I think, some anxiety, some performance anxiety, some just anticipation, but then also it's just a tremendous amount of excitement for this thing. It's going to be sweet.
It is going to be sweet. But let me ask you about this balance that you talked about. Do you, as a team, talk about that? I mean, talk about having to stay focused and, you could get overwhelmed by all the people, and you could also get super excited. And I'm sure every athlete is going to be different in their reaction to that.
Yeah, we haven't started talking about that as a team yet. I was talking with the head coach Matt Wickham the other day, and I think we will end up talking about it because I think it, obviously there's no denying, like, Jesse is a huge reason why this World Cup is coming in Minneapolis. And a lot of people want to see Jesse. A lot of people are going to want to see Rosie and Ben and these athletes that are having a lot of success. But I know for certain there are athletes that are going to have their World Cup debut for the very first time in Minneapolis, or maybe they had it in Canmore, and they're going to have a ton of fans there, family, friends cheering them on as well. And I think, they're going to be experiencing some very similar feelings to Jesse, Rosie, Julia, these athletes that have been on the World Cup for a really long time, because they're also going to have quite a few fans there. And so I do think it's a conversation that we will end up having with a lot of the athletes that, like, you made it here and we want you to experience all of this to the full extent, but also we want you to ski really fast and show them why you're here and how you made it, and soak that up as well. Because nothing really beats, your home venue racing extremely well and making World Cup heats in front of all of the people that you love. That's a really special experience. So I think we will end up having a conversation about it, and with staff as well. Like, the staff are going to be out there and seeing a bunch of their family that's supporting them. So yeah, it'll end up being a conversation for sure.
Yeah, I mean, because some of the athletes are really nice people, and they're going to have to be a little bit selfish and, making sure that they get the warm up they need and the focus that they need. And
absolutely.
Yeah.
But man, it's going to be, I'm so excited for all of them to just go warm up on the course before, the sprint or the 10K, and have all of those people there in the spectator area screaming their name. Yeah. That's going to be the coolest experience. And it's going to be fun after the race to ask them what they thought of it. And, if one side of their hearing has been, like, blown out because all of the spectators are going to be on the right-hand side. So, like, it was pretty funny. Like, Gus Schumacher, for example, Goms had, like, great spectator attendance. And he had said that, he's like, I might need to wear, like, earplugs tomorrow. He's like, my ear hurt after skiing through, like, some of the mobs of people. We're like, that's maybe not a bad idea for Minneapolis too. Yeah. But yeah, it'll be very fun, and everyone's going to be hearing really well on their left side.
Yeah. We talked about a year ago, almost exactly. And how has your role changed since that time? And maybe, like, what are you doing exactly when you're at the venues? Or you said this time at Goms you were not physically there, but you're still working, obviously.
Yeah. A lot of my job is the same. There's been a few changes since last year. First of all, I'm no longer in grad school, and so I finished that, and well, so I'm good. Not trying to balance both of those things anymore. Thank goodness. It has seriously opened up more time for me to take on a few other things. And so and I'm definitely able to strike a little bit more of a balance in my life now. But beyond that, I ended up working a little bit closer with another athlete on the team, helping him write his plan. And he's is Gus Schumacher. He's very good at writing his own plan, and he's like very much a student of the sport and is very dedicated to trying to get better, just like many of the athletes. And so I helped him a little bit more, just generate a different kind of structure and make some changes in his training this year. So that's been super fun. I'm still working with Julia, and so we're always talking and collaborating and stuff. So that's been very fun as well. And then we have a larger D team this year. So we have 9 athletes. And so several of them, if not, yeah, almost all of the D team athletes have been on the World Cup or will be on the World Cup at Minneapolis. And so I've been able to see a lot more of them this year, which has been super fun. Otherwise, the day-to-day stuff at the venue, I'm doing all the same stuff. Race day, working on poles, doing logistics, helping the techs out, doing a lot of glide outs, helping athletes implement what's on their plan that they've generated with their coaches back at home. So it is a lot of the same. It's just the difference, I think, this time is I'm a lot more comfortable and confident in what I'm doing. And we're going to a lot of venues that we were at last year. So I know these places now, and I'm not showing up and having to relearn, where the race office is and, where's the FIS family room where we get lunch and learning all of the courses. So that's made it a little bit more comfortable, I guess.
We also spoke about the Trail to Gold Women Coaches Fellowship, and you spoke very glowingly about that. And I was wondering if you're still feeling that way, and what is the situation now for women coaches and also, I guess, women techs. We talked about women techs as well.
Yeah, I still think very highly of the program. I'm a huge fan. I'm always really grateful that we get to have these women rotating through every 2 weeks. And part of that is because like the experience that I had when I came over and had like a 2-week stint a couple years ago was a really great one. And I want people to experience that. But also selfishly, I I get to room with these women and get to know new people and like make new friends in the US ski scene, and also just like hear about what they have going on at their club, how they're doing things differently, and just kind of like soak up a little bit more and have that connection back to domestic racing that we don't always get to see because we're overseas all the time. So it's been going really well this year. We have added more Trail to Gold spots. So last year we had four Trail to Gold women come throughout the season, plus a 5th woman came because of the Women's Sports Foundation grant. This year we have 8 women coming.
Oh, that's great.
And so it's been awesome. And so there has been sometimes overlap between 2 of them at once. And that's insanely fun because then they like also feed off of each other and the excitement of not being here before and not knowing what's going on all the time. They kind of like very frequently will work together, and it's always a power duo. Like they crush it and they do really awesome. It's just fun for me to watch and be part of. So the Trail to Gold program is awesome. I know for sure it is making a difference. Like a year ago, obviously, like we didn't know exactly what the outcome would be because we were in the midst of it. But I know several of the women that were on the Trail to Gold last year or with the Women's Sports Foundation ended up getting jobs, head coaching positions that I think having the Trail to Gold and World Cup experience on their resume played a huge role in helping them get that job because they had that experience compared to maybe other people that had applied. So like Sam Bending, for example, she became the head coach at Harvard. She's a younger coach and she got this head coach position. And that I think is, that speaks volumes. And granted, it's not all a Trail to Gold. It's not all the World Cup experience that got her that job. But I think that experience helped elevate her resume, maybe like, 5-10%. So that's super cool to see. We know that it's working. And then we also know that they're bringing back those experiences back to their clubs, maybe, making some taking the things that they learned and applying it towards their clubs and their teams that they work with on a daily basis. But the other cool thing is we also had some of the Trail to Gold people from last year. They came back this year, and the team is so psyched to see them again. I mean, they're here for 2 weeks at a time, but they have a tremendous impact. You could have that in 2 weeks. You can create that with the athletes and with the staff, and then you come back and you're part of this family. And so it's cool for me to see the impact it has had with the staff, with our team, but also for them. Like, it's so cool to know that these women want to come back and that they had a really good experience. That's like music to my ears. And I'm so, so, so glad that our team is really bought into this whole experience. I'm super proud of everybody, and really grateful to be working for a team that's open and trying to push something that's really important to me and that the world needs. So it's cool. We're filling these bibs every single weekend, and we're the only team. But go for it.
No, I was just going to say it's very encouraging to see what can be done with, not a ton of effort, but some thought.
Exactly. And just like a little bit of buy-in. Like, right. I mean, it's pretty amazing how when our staff and these athletes, they know that a new person is coming, they're so welcoming. And they're like, oh yeah, of course. Like, yeah, there's a new woman coach coming, or a coach from last year. Like, of course they're, we're going to make them feel like they're part of this team and make sure that they have this good experience. And like, there's no better word than like, I'm so proud of everybody for creating that. That's so special. And then I think that it's speaking volumes to a lot of the other teams on the World Cup. Like, we're quite literally the only team that is filling our bibs every single weekend, both women's bibs.
Still? Because you said that last year. I thought everybody would sort of see what you're doing and follow suit.
Oh, man, I thought so too. Like, I thought we would return this year and people would, and other teams would have been like, yeah, see the value in it. And because other teams were definitely like filling, maybe 1-2 bibs per weekend last year. And we were seeing that happen. It's like, okay, this thing is growing. People are seeing that this is really important. And yeah, unfortunately, it didn't stick. Like, it didn't convince people to hire more women, unfortunately. We did see one team hired a woman tech. Her name is Anna Seebacher. She is a tech for Austria. So she's been around the whole season, and they did not fill their bibs last year. So that's pretty cool. Norway is filling 1. Sweden fills 1. Germany occasionally fills both, depending on the venue. Off the top of my head, that's about it. Canada also fills. Canada has 1 woman as well. That's usually on the World Cup circuit. So yeah, it's still really sparse.
Well, yay us.
But yeah, I hope, fingers crossed, like next year it grows a little bit more, even if it's just by 1 or 2.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was surprised. I thought maybe it would have been quite a bit more than what I just listed off.
Yeah. Well, great. Thank you so much. This has been really fantastic, and I always appreciate talking to you.
Oh, man. Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's been, it's always fun to talk about this stuff.
Once again, another wonderful race report with a woman from the U.S. cross-country ski team. This time we talked to a coach for a different view of things. Thank you, Kristen, for finding time very early in the morning to talk to Hear Her Sports. It was so fun. We'd love to have you back anytime. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Be sure to check out all the other race reports because they're just so good. We've been getting the chance to meet U.S. athletes like Sophia Lockley, Jessie Diggins, and Novi McCabe, just to name a few. Listeners have sent me such positive responses. I'd love to hear what you think, too. Email elizabeth@hearhersports.com. Stories like these keep fans interested and knowledgeable and ready to watch big events, knowing what's going on and who the characters are. Tell your friends about the race reports so they can be ready and excited about the Minnesota World Cup coming to Minneapolis on February 17th and 18th. Or just tell your friends because the U.S. skiers are so awesome. Go to hearhersports.com to contact me, sign up for the newsletter, listen to all the episodes, and support the show through Bookshop, Naboso, and through Buy Me a Coffee. If you are new to Hear Her Sports, welcome, and I hope you take a look at some of the other terrific episodes. There are lots of skiers, cyclists, runners, along with athletes from other sports you may not know much about. Every guest has so much to offer. I hope to see you in Minneapolis. Be sure to let me know that you'll be there. And until then, bye-bye.
Do we want to start over?
Sports stars. They're like superheroes.
But they're actually real.
Which is why we've made a podcast about them. You see,
They've all got a story.
but too many of these stories were cut short.
Kobe Bryant,
Payne Stewart,
Flojo,
Phil Hughes.
Justin Fashanu,
We're writing episodes about all of them.
and sadly many more.
Death of a Sports Star, a new series from Crowd Network.